Welcome to the Moon Baby Magic Podcast, a space for women and women's stories. For the woman just beginning to believe she can actually heal her painful period naturally. For the one in a full-on love affair with aligning her entire life with her cycle. And for every woman in between. This is a platform to remember the wisdom that lives in our wombs so that we may actualize the lives of our dreams. I'm your host, Natalie Elliott, women's health practitioner specializing in traditional Chinese medicine-based hormonal healing. Ready for slow and sacred storytelling and to learn a little something? Let's dive in. What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is a sort of unique episode. About once per season, Sydni and I love to get on each other's podcasts and just talk about whatever's been on our heart. So this is truly an unfiltered episode between my friend Sydni, who is the owner and founder of Sacred Reclamation, and I. And it's really just us having a deep conversation about something that's been on our hearts and hitting record on it. So I'm really excited to bring it to you. Today, our topic was relationships, and both of us have really been through our own initiations in relationships. From my divorce to Sydni's challenges in choosing to stay in her long-term relationship, through my current phase of life that is dating and Sydni's current phase of life, which is deepening. This episode really touches on themes that I think any of you are going to be able to find yourself in somewhere. Before we get going with the episode, though, I feel called to remind all of you to really take good care of yourselves. I'm on day 2 of my period. Just gonna record this intro and then go take a bath and chill the heck out today. I just feel like sometimes as we get into these seasons of spring and summer, life begins to move more swiftly. And my intention with this podcast is always to help us slow down. So I've been reminded of the vital need for self-care. Sydni has been so kind as to offer listeners of the podcast 15% off products in her herbal store. So you can use the code MOONBABY15 for 15% off. She's got amazing products like reishi, which is so wonderful for your nervous system, and even tallow body butter that I'm really excited to try. And yeah, and then I also have some discount codes for some other things in the show notes. So other things you can do to take care of yourself: castor oil packs to support your liver, to support winding down at the end of the day, to support allowing things to move that feel stuck. It's like one of the top things I use with clients. So you can use Natalie, I think actually the code is Natalie L, so Natalie EL, for 10% off at Queen of Thrones castor oil packs. That'll be in the show notes though. And then you can also use code MOONBABYLOVE for 15% off Kitara Yoni Steam Supplies. So my 2 favorite ways to really take good care of myself, I should say I have 3 favorite ways. One is a hot bath. You can do that for free. The second would be yoni steaming. And the third would be the castor oil packs. Just ways that I'm able to tend to myself even when life starts to speed up. So I encourage you to do the same. And relationships. What do relationships have to do with all of this? I actually posted a video on Instagram when I was doing my daily things I do to support my hormones for pain and PMS-free periods or cycles. And the last one I posted, which arguably the most important one, is I nurture my relationships. And that can mean a lot of different things. It could mean saying no to a relationship that is draining you. It can mean saying yes to working through a relationship that you know is good for you. It could mean remembering that we need different types of relationships in our lives. We need our female friendships just as much as we need our romantic partnerships. And Sydni and I are here to talk about that. So kind of our unpopular opinion in this episode is that most relationship advice is garbage because it doesn't take into account the vast uniqueness of everyone's unique constellation of them and of their relationships. And Sid and I are here to say that. So in this unfiltered episode, my dear friend and herbalist, Sydni of Sacred Reclamation, joins me for one of our favorite things, hitting record on a conversation we are already having. We get into my divorce and why I've never once seen myself as a victim of it, her 8-year relationship and the really hard season she moved through with it this past winter. And all of the tired relationship tropes were just like really done hearing. We also talk about what it actually looks like to take space for yourself in a long term relationship, to call your energy back to yourself, the victim mindset and how to move through it without living there, and the kind of female friendship that holds you down when everything else falls apart. Really, no perfect answers from us here, just two women having a really curious and honest conversation about love. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you resonate with it, please feel free to send either one of us a message on Instagram. I know we'd both love to hear from you. All right, let's dive in. Okay, yay, we're back. We're back. I'm so happy to do this. For anyone who's listening, this is Sid and I's, I was gonna say third, but it's probably like fourth or fifth if we count like being on each other's podcasts
Yeah.
time recording together. And what I love about recording with you is like we just talk about whatever we want. Doesn't have to fit any niche.
It's like a slightly filtered regular conversation between.
Yeah. Slightly filtered because sometimes I do pause it to be like, let's not record that part.
Let's not put all our personal details out on the internet.
I know. I've been working on that. I think I tend to be a bit of an oversharer, but I think in sometimes with relationships, which is like what we wanted to talk about today, like it's actually not great to like always share details about your relationship. I think it can be fun and playful with your girlfriends, but it also one thing I was realizing is this thing I told you about before, or when I paused and hit record, that I'm not going to really get into at this very moment, but a certain action by a past partner of mine. I almost, before I told my friends about it, I had this moment of feeling like I should really sit with this myself first and like actually think about or feel, not think, feel into like how do I feel about this? Because I think it's so easy to just get caught up in like the girlfriend, oh yeah, that's this way, without actually tuning into your own heart. Because ultimately, in a relationship, like there's so much nuance and no one knows your partner or your past partner the way that you do. So it's hard for people to give like an actual unbiased opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm still trying to find the balance, and I feel like I always will be between what to share, what's oversharing, and what's just like withholding, because I do kind of
Mhm.
like sharing. I really enjoy I don't know if I enjoy it, but just the way I am, like I like to share honestly and openly. And
Mhm.
especially with relationships, it's something that I wish more people would do so that there was almost like, especially like elders or older people or people who've been in a relationship longer. I really
Yeah.
wish there was more honesty and vulnerability around how intense it is to be in a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the second part that you said, but I agree with that too. Oh, sitting with
I
the,
love that you forgot what I said, but you still know that you agree.
I agree with everything you say.
I was like, this is our friendship.
It was the sitting with stuff yourself before sharing. There's also that balance between, I feel like something really healthy about relationships or just good relationship wisdom is like blocking out all the noise and like what actually works for you and your partner.
Yes.
And then there's also the line of that can also turn into though like hiding things from people you love because of some kind of shame around sharing it. That's something that I navigated a little bit the past winter was like opening up when I was in a really tough spot in my relationship, opening up to family and a few friends about what was really going on. And I think it was really necessary, but then it was almost like people got a little too comfortable with, and specifically like my dad and his wife, like a little too
Mm.
comfortable with like just the way they talked about it or were being so judgy. And I can be a little slow to like process things. So I'll be like hearing what someone says and I'm like, okay, I'm like taking that in. And then after I sit with it for a little bit, I'm like, wait, that's not what I think or what I feel. That's
Yeah.
not mine.
Yeah. I think that's so real. Yeah, I have a very similar tendency of just, yeah, like speaking openly about things and I think assuming the best of people and I as they respond. But I think I don't think that people are trying to do any certain thing by seeing your partner in a certain way. But yeah, I lost my train of thought, but I think that it can take away from your own thoughts and feelings about it, especially if everyone is just like jumping on a bandwagon about how to feel about someone. But the thing around shame is really interesting too. My friend Bree, who is on my podcast, I think she said something like, whatever is left in the shadows accumulates shame or something like that. And so things that we don't speak about, even if you don't feel shameful about them, like they do accumulate that, which I think is really interesting.
But it's, I guess the key there is like having your quote unquote safe people that you can go to that will allow you to just show up as you are and just
Hmm.
say the raw, honest thing and not really, they're not trying to take anything from you or be like, oh, this is what you need to do. Or like they're not using it as ammunition for not liking your partner or something. It's if
Yeah.
we were all super honest about all the things we didn't like about our partner, like we could all probably hate each other's partners. Because
True.
it's like everyone has like super cringy things that like, and also the other things that people aren't willing to put up with. You know, everyone has their unique formula of what they're with.
Yeah.
That's why you're with the specific person you're with.
Yeah, it's so true. Oh my gosh. Yeah, my friend Bree also said this actually to me yesterday. She got a lot of good one-liners. Thanks, Bree. She was like, and I think she heard this from a podcast or something or an audiobook that like every relationship you have, including like your female friendships, they're going to have a fatal flaw. As in something that you just are really annoyed about by them that's like really hard to deal with, but like you love them enough as a whole person to just kind of deal with it. And for everyone, what they can deal with is going to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain things that might be a deal breaker for someone else that's like whatever for someone else. I remember when I was going through my divorce, which is something I want to touch on today a little bit around like some topics around that. Because speak of things that you don't talk about gathering shame in the shadows, I feel like for the first 6, 7 months of me separating from my ex-husband, I was just like, I can't even show up online at all because I just was like hiding my entire life because of that, because of like how deeply I felt like I couldn't share that experience because of like how much cultural shame was associated with it for me. That's another topic. But what I want to say in this moment is I remember people asking about like why my marriage ended. There's a lot of reasons, but one of the things I was talking about was like health and his diet and his lifestyle. And I remember my friends being like, my college girlfriends being like, Natalie, are you really gonna end a marriage because someone eats fast food? And I was like, yeah. For someone who's hearing that, hearing me laugh, there's obviously a lot more to it than that. And yeah, this isn't to shame anyone, but it was just like health is a very top priority in my life. And it doesn't make sense for me to be with someone who also doesn't value that. Whereas for someone else, maybe they don't care that much about that. It's not a big priority. They don't need their partner to be on the same page as them with that. But for me, that actually was a deal breaker.
Yeah. And especially that's going to be the father of your children and
Yeah.
like raise your children with. And like, that's,
Yeah.
that's huge. I think we're both on that page, but health is such a pillar of your life.
Yeah.
It's so important. Did he eat fast food before you guys got married or did that kind of creep back in?
No, it creeped in. He went through a phase. Yeah, he was in a bit of a challenging point with it. And I think he was trying to save money. And also, he was like his job, the nature of it was like he was out and about a lot. And I think he didn't think it was a big deal, which interesting now we're like developing a friendship at this stage. And so I do know about a bit about his life now. He has stopped that, which is so fascinating. It's so interesting to me like how sometimes one thing he wanted me to do more was work out. He didn't like that I wasn't a big gym girl because he is really big into the gym, which is interesting with the fast food thing. But he used to take really good care of himself when we met. That was like part of the attraction. And now I'm like a big gym girl. He doesn't eat fast food. And it's so interesting what happens when we release each other and release our expectations of each other. I find that really fascinating.
Yeah. What do you make of that? Because I feel like I feel like divorce is such a one of those tender subjects. Even me and you being close, I feel a little careful about how I want to speak with it because I don't want to offend you by asking a certain question, but I also want to be able to ask a question. My intention is not to offend you, but I just want to ask, do you ever think, okay, if we would have, I know it was not just him eating fast food and you not working out, but like if
Yeah.
you guys would have stuck it out and stayed together, things change. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a big topic and it doesn't offend me. I feel really comfortable talking about this stuff now. Yeah, I think about that all the time. And interestingly enough, him and I have actually even talked about that. We've been able to have those vulnerable conversations. And I think really what it is, our dynamic wasn't working. We tried so hard to make it work. And ultimately, we weren't willing to come together in a convincing way to, yeah, to show each other the love that both of us deserved. But I don't think that thought of, I guess just to be blunt, yeah, I think about what if we had stuck it out all the time, and he does too. And I don't know if that ever goes away. I don't think it does. I think when you commit your life to someone and you see forever with them, that I don't think that ever goes away.
Yeah, that makes
But I think that it like, how do I want to say this? I think there is a point where I don't want to say practicality because that seems too shallow of a word, but reality. There is a point where the reality of a circumstance outweighs the idea of what it could be. And I think that's what happened for us. I know that's what happened for us is we did a ton of work on our relationship. We did couples counseling. We both did personal development work. We tried moving out of our house and traveling together to see if we just needed to get out of a rut. We tried a lot of stuff and had a lot of conversations, had conversations around what would you need to make this work? What would you need? How do you view this? And we couldn't come together no matter how hard we tried. And to me, that's the point of, okay, no matter how much we care for each other and can talk about what could be in the future, the reality of right now is not serving us and draining us. And can we choose to make that impossibly difficult decision, knowing that it's going to be better for both of us? And arguably, it has been. I can't fully speak for him, but I'm a lot happier. I'm a lot more peaceful. Of course, it was really hard. It was really sad. Continues to be sad. I don't think it will ever not be, but it does feel like the right decision. I think it's a challenging subject for me sometimes because I don't think everyone should make the same decision I did. I think there are times to stick it out and work through. And I think the longer I go through this process of it, the more I realize it's just not the same for anyone. People, huh?
it's so personal.
It's so personal. People talk to me all the time about it, where they're like considering leaving their partner and blah, blah, blah. And I just have to be so careful in those circumstances because I would never want to project my experience onto someone because, yeah, it's not everyone will require the same decision as my decision was. And at the same time, I still 100% believe that we made the right decision.
Does that make you scared or wary of getting married again? Or
Yeah. Not as much as you might think. Yeah. I still feel very open to love. That was a conscious choice I made when I was like going through the process. I was like, I think my biggest prayer, I was like, God, let me feel all the heartbreak I need to feel, but don't let me close my heart. And I will tell you, I felt a lot of heartbreak, but I didn't close my heart and
yeah.
I've remained open to love. And I've been heartbroken since. And yet, yeah, I think there is a little bit of fear in regards to I've had to work to rebuild my sense of self-trust a little bit. Can I pick the right person? Will I know when it's time to leave? How do I know? A lot of questions have arisen for me, honestly. And maybe I would love to hear if you have a perspective on some of these questions. One of them is, what do you do when two people change? That's a big question I've had. What happens when two people change? Another one, which is interesting as I start to get older, is, and I don't know, maybe you don't know this because you're in a long-term relationship, so you're not dating as an older person necessarily, like finding a new partner. But this is a question I have for finding a new partner. So if anyone's listening and they're like, whatever, in their 30s dating, I'd love to hear what your thought is like, how do two people who already have full lives on their own bring their lives together? That's a big question I have now.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I would, not that I know, but just what comes to top of mind with that question is the love has to be so strong and so sturdy that it doesn't matter. It's like I'm willing to mesh my life with yours because it's you.
Yeah,
I love you.
true.
Which that feels really nice because that's so different than just being like young and dating whoever goes to your school or like
Yeah, like hasn't. It's just interesting. Like when I met my ex-husband, I was 23. And so I was very much, yeah, not set in my life. We built together. And so it's just different. It's different in this phase of my life. Thinking about marriage again is likely whoever I'm going to meet. I've built a really full life for myself, a whole community of friends, hobbies that I do, a dog. I live by myself. I have a certain way of life. And I'm certain that the men that I will be dating have also a full life. And I've seen that. I've seen that in people I've dated, and it's been something that has been like a point of contention, interestingly. Or not contention, but just, yeah, how do we navigate that?
yeah, you're almost having to give up more than when you're younger.
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard people say, women who are also dating that are a little bit older, and not that I'm not old, but I'm not 21. Huh?
How old are you? 29?
Yeah, I'm 29. I'm a granny over here. It's so funny. Yesterday I was at my salsa class and I was talking to my teacher and I mentioned something about getting divorced 2 years ago. And she's talking to me about it. And then all of a sudden she just pauses and she goes, "How old are you?" That's like by far always the response when I mention that to someone. And she's, wow, okay. Yeah, it's interesting. But I've heard some women say that they do wait to fully develop their lives until they find a partner. And I'm like, whoa, that's really interesting. That hasn't been my approach, but I guess I get it.
I don't believe in planning like that.
Oh man. Yeah. The other thing I want to touch on, this is maybe like the last big point I want to touch on around marriage and divorce particularly is I've had okay, so I am like so separated, I feel, from the idea that I'm a victim of getting divorced that I forgot that some people might even have that perspective. And this was like when you said you wanted to talk about relationships, I was like, this is what I need to talk about.
Mm.
Because I was talking to a girlfriend of mine, and her younger sister is considering working with me for fertility. And when I was talking to my friend, she was like, "Oh, yeah, my little sister." I'm not going to say her name. She was like, "Oh, I feel so bad for Natalie. She needs to find someone." And when she said that to me, I was like, I wasn't offended, but I was really taken aback at just that perspective. And it took me, like, this was like 2 months ago. And it took me until 2 weeks ago to realize why I was so just confused by that response. And I think it's because I don't live in a victim mindset about my life. And I know you're very similar in the way that you see things. And I realize like how beautiful that is, that I've never seen getting divorced as something that people should feel bad for me for. Yes, I was sad. It was so fucking sad. I was heartbroken. It was really hard, but I never felt like that was something that happened to me. It was
Mhm.
like that was my choice. I made an aligned choice that was a really difficult choice and a choice I didn't want to have to make, but it was never something like, oh, poor Natalie, she's divorced, she's all alone. I actually, if anything, I felt really powerful in my emotions, in the fact that I was like grieving something so big and choosing something so big and hard that, oh wow, I can move through that. I can make these decisions for myself. I can be a human and experience heartbreak on such a deep level, and I can rebuild my life from the ground up. And yeah, I just think more people need to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad you actually brought that up because something that I've really been moving through in my relationship, I mentioned earlier, moving through the hard season of winter and still being in the aftermath of that. But something I've noticed the past couple of months is I've actually been feeling really victimized by my relationship. And that's so unlike me. I feel like
Yeah.
6 weeks or so ago, I don't know how long, some time ago, semi recently, like I just woke up and saw that of what am I doing? Who am I? It's not me. I'm not a victim of my life or of anyone or anything. And it's interesting because being a victim is not like that's not even something you can be. It's really just an idea, you know?
Yeah.
And it like puts this horrible filter on your life. And I feel like it's almost also like a frequency. It just is gonna attract, it's just bad vibes.
It is bad vibes.
It's something that's so like within our control that
Yeah.
like, I think that some people don't realize that because the culture is such a victim culture. It's almost like people want to know, what are you a victim of? And it's like it's you don't have to be a victim. And also like it's also okay to move through that. And something I appreciated about our friendship was like you were someone who I could really vent to over the winter and just I'd be like, I know this is dramatic, but like, and you were just like, girl, just let it out. It's like you can almost play the role of victim for a second, especially with one of your girlfriends, and just let it move through you and get it out and be like, oh yeah, that was dramatic and 90% of it wasn't even true. But it's almost like you have to move through it. But it's so many people just like step into that suit and they're like, this is who I am now.
That's really interesting that you put it that way because so many people step into the victim thing and stay there. But I think what you're saying too is let yourself be there and then shift away from it. Because if you just pretend like none of those like weird thoughts ever exist, that also isn't great. Honor it when you're there. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's really nice because I feel the same way with you and a few other sisters in my life that like I could fully be in that like stupid drama, like you said, where you're just like, this isn't true. And this is like such an unconscious way to say all these things, but like, I'm just gonna say it and allow that. It's
Mhm.
really nice to have people who can hold that and know that's not really you and just be in it with you for a second instead of trying to coach you out of it right away. Because that's something that I've found to be really annoying in female friendships is when there's like an immediate like coaching instead of just understanding that this person knows that what they're saying is ridiculous. You don't need to bring them out of it. They can do it themselves.
I did also appreciate that at the same time, I had another friend who was very much like coaching me out of it. So it was a good balance. I will say I was like, I definitely first time we had a conversation about it. I was like, ugh, like come on, just let me just put that bitch. And it took me a moment to be like, I was definitely, I don't know the word, but I was just like, ugh, come on.
Yeah.
But then I really appreciated having both of you.
That's actually true. Now that I think about it, the other day I've been like kind of going through a breakup. The other day, one of my friends said in a voice note to me, this one line of her voice note really stood out to me. She was like, I hope the space, or she was like, I was just having a hard time with not being able to talk to this person anymore. And I pray and I hope that the space gives you the clarity to figure out what it is you need and honor your own worth, and that it maybe gives him the opportunity to see what he needs to see. And just the way that she said that, she reframed my, yeah, annoyance and saying that, just saying whatever I was saying about it into what the beautiful part of having space from someone is, that did actually help. So I do hear you on that.
It can be cringy, but it's also, oh yeah, that's true too. But with
Yeah.
the feeling thing, it's like you don't really choose feelings. Feelings just come and
Yeah.
you feel them and let them go or they hang around. But it's if you feel victimized and you need to be a victim for a little bit, just have your moment, but also
Yeah.
staying rooted and knowing that's not you and you can choose something different anytime. It's so
Yeah. I'm curious if you want to talk more about like how your relationship feels right now. What is your relation to your relationship right now?
My relation to my relationship right now is actually practicing coming up for air a little bit or getting a little bit of distance from it. So Shane and I have been together for 8 years and 3 years ago, we left where we had been living together and we went and traveled and just, I really threw up our whole life in the air. And I did it just one day. And then a month later, we packed up and left everything we knew behind. And
Wow.
while that was such a fun adventure, it was also so stressful and put so much pressure on our relationship because we also very much were like doing our own thing. And I loved all the time we spent out in nature, and I love all the time we got to spend together. And it was really a good tester for our relationship. But also at the end of the 3 years, I found that we were really isolated from everything. We had just thrown everything away, and we didn't have any structure or foundation. And there were some mental health challenges, I think, for me and my perspective. I obviously can only speak from my perspective and my experience, but it was like having a partner who does have challenges with depression and stuff. And I have my issues with that too. I think that I tend to move through it at a faster pace than he does. I can say he was the one dealing with the mental health issues, but then because it was just us two, it overflowed onto me.
Yeah.
At the end of the year last year, it was like we were both not really, we weren't really ourselves. And so taking time apart was really necessary. And like I said earlier before we were recording, once we decided to come back together, it was like, I was like, yeah, let's go. And I was just trying to be positive. There was a lot of new changes, and that reoriented our life. We ended up back where we started when we left 3 years ago, which is that's a whole fucking trip in itself.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
I was really trying to be positive and be like, okay, whatever. I trust life. I trust God. We're always where we're meant to be. Like, let's make the best of it. And then it was, okay, we're still trudging through this stuff. And he's still like, when you said, what do you do when people change? I know me and you talked about this in the fall. We had a conversation, and to be completely honest, I remember telling you he's changing a lot, and I don't know if I'm gonna who he comes out on the other side. And
I remember that.
I was like, he's really cringing me out. I don't. I'm just being so honest, and I still feel that sometimes now. He's still not fully. I don't know. I don't know if there ever is a time when someone's back together, but he's still like things are rearranged and he's not quite settled in who he is on the other side of this big experience that he's been going through personally. And yeah, there are days when he really cringes me out. And there are days I question a lot. Can I do this? Can I do this? But I'm like, one thing that's helped me so much is talking with people who, and it's so rare, a lot of people will just encourage you to get out of the relationship. It's really rare to find people who will be like, this is, and we're not married, so it's a little bit different, but it's like, this is marriage. You just keep going. Of course, people are going to change. And I know that. I talk about that all the time. Is I change so much. It's really uncomfortable. My relation to my relationship right now is it's still uncomfortable. And I'm just calling my energy back towards myself more now. I need to recenter and find myself and find some more clarity on who I am and what I want in life and focus on myself because I can do both. I can still be in the relationship and focus on myself and discover it's possible, men. You don't have to end all your relationships and everything to explore self-discovery. We're also always exploring self-discovery. There was a quote I heard. It was when I was in Ojai last fall, and this woman was singing this song, and she was saying, even when I'm running away from myself, somehow I'm still running towards myself. And that's such a healing balm for me. Of, oh, thank God. Because, like, it's scary sometimes when you're like, where am I? Where am I? And I'm always here. It's always, you can't, there's nothing ever, you can't go wrong. There's no wrong decision. You're never off your path. You're never lost from yourself. You're always, yeah, I love that. Even when I'm running away from myself, somehow I'm running towards myself. I think that's so beautiful. And I feel peace just washes over me when I hear that and feel that.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love that. It is sweet to remember that. Something on a similar note, something I've been saying to myself lately when I start to feel overwhelmed by life decisions or my own emotions or something I'm moving through or going to move through, I'm just like, yeah, I can be in this because it's just me. I'm here. I can be in this with me. It's nice to just remember that we're always there.
Yeah.
Something you said about you taking time and space from Shane. I want to hear more about that. I think it's easy to think that taking space means things should just not continue. I've heard that before. If you need space, if you need that much space, you shouldn't be with someone, or it's just not a conventional thing. And I'm not saying this to be the same way you were like, I don't want to, it's not to offend you or anything, but it's just, I would love to talk about that because, yeah, I just think it's an unconventional thing to do. And I want to hear more about your thoughts on space in relationships.
Yeah, that doesn't offend me at all. Shane and I have had that going. We've had multiple times in our relationship where we just aren't together we never break up, but we are just physically not together for a little bit. And
Mm.
I think there's something about our energy. We are just, when we are together, we're together like all the time. Especially these past 3 years where neither of us was really working a regular 9 to 5 job. We're not living a life where we see each other in the morning and then we both go to work and we're gone all day and then we see each other at night and on the weekends. We're together 95% of the time. So it's like, it's in a way, it's not that different from what other people are doing. If you do all the calculation with time, probably we are just I don't know, something energetically obsessed with each other and be like very magnetized. So we're together like all the time. And then it gets to a point where we're like, oh, I can't stand you. I love you so much, but also give me some space. And then like the first time I went up to North Carolina and stayed with my brother for a month. A couple years later, Shane ended up going to Peru for 2 months. And then this time is different because it was, you know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, each time was a little bit of an exploration of what's life like without you. This
Hmm.
is most intense. I don't know if it's because I'm so close to it or if it just gets more intense every time. But every time it is this little bit of what is life like without you? And
Hmm.
then we both are like, no, I actually like life better with you.
Wow.
And it's nice to be able to do that. And because even when we were talking about, even if we were to break up, we both are talking about it. And we're like, the words break up are so weird. Like, we're like, what would we even call it? Dissolving our relationship? I don't know. Like, we're never breaking up. We're never going to break this relationship, this bond that we have. Like, and also sometimes it's like, I think there can be quote unquote breakups in a long-term relationship that aren't actually breaking up. It's almost like a death of the relationship of how it is. And like we're still having conversations like that now of like I wish I could be as graceful when I speak with him in private as I am like talking with you on a podcast because I'm not as kind or well spoken, but it's like I like me saying that I can't be in this relationship anymore doesn't necessarily mean that we need to break up. But this relationship that we have right now, it's not working. Like we need a new evolution of our relationship. So you can break up but still be with the same person, you know,
Yeah.
if you have the right person and you're both willing to keep trying and both willing to just be that's what I like about Shane and I is like we are willing to be just honest and real with not worried about what's traditional or conventional or what other people think. It's like it doesn't actually matter. It's just this is what works for us.
Wow. Yeah, there's so much to say there. I love so much of what you said, but that last part especially, like it doesn't matter what's normal or conventional, it's just what works for you. I think that's huge. I think that most people who I've seen, I really try to silence relationship advice online, but sometimes it pops through. And I remember there was like this one licensed family therapist, family marriage therapist, and that was one of the things he said. And he was like, because it started with there was this girl talking about how when she gets married, she doesn't want to live with her husband. She wants to live next door to him so that they can both have their own houses. And there were so many people in the comments being like, that's not real marriage, blah, blah, blah. And then this licensed marriage family therapist responded to the whole thing. And he was like, actually, like being in this work for 20 years, the couples that do best are the ones that do what they want, not what they think they should do. And I think there's so many really good examples of that. One being on a different side, one of my close friends, Emma, her and her husband, Michael, I remember when they first started dating and maybe even when they were engaged, Emma said to me, like, yeah, Michael and I spend a lot of time together and I'm really dependent on him. And maybe some people would look at our relationship and call it codependent, but it works for us, so I don't really care what anyone else says. And I remember feeling, wow, that's powerful. She's just owning that that's what they want. They want to spend all their waking hours together and not travel without each other and that's like what they've both decided on as two adult people. And that's what they're gonna do.
I think you told me that sometime over the fall because I've remembered that in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I do agree with that, and also I'm in a point too where I'm like we're a little bit too codependent. Like I want a little bit of independence back, and it's also another thing I wanted to say is there's so much talk online about healthy relationships. And is your relationship healthy? Is it unhealthy? Is it toxic? Like, okay, most of us aren't dying from our relationship. Okay, it's not toxic. I think that word's so overused. But also something I've been sitting with lately is there's parts of my relationships that are healthy and there's parts that are unhealthy and it changes. Sometimes things are healthy, sometimes things are unhealthy. It's the same
Yeah.
with my body and my life and like all of my other relationships.
Yeah.
I think this idea of having this perfectly healthy relationship with this perfect person who checks all your boxes and never triggers you or never does something that you fucking hate, like I just don't know if that's real.
I don't think so either. I was talking with some of my girlfriends yesterday. We do this workout vibe on Wednesday mornings. One of my friends has a home gym, and so we all work out together and then we go on a walk and yap for an hour. So it's great. And yesterday we were talking a lot about relationships because that's what's been up for me. And so I'm talking about things, and my friend Eileen said an NLP. Have you heard of NLP? I forget what NLP stands for. Neuro linguistic programming. Maybe that's what it is. It's like a certain self-development tool that a lot of my friends are pretty well versed in and trained in. And she was like, an NLP, they say that your family, so like your partner, your kids, they're the people that come here to fuck with you. That's like the thought there. And it's like they're not here to make your life. And this is something that I could go back and forth with, but the idea is they're not here to make your life easier, they're here to help you grow. I've gotten to a point personally where after I've heard all that stuff before around, oh, your partner's supposed to trigger you, blah, blah, blah. And I get that and I agree with it. I think that our partners aren't supposed to just make us feel good all the time. It's a dynamic. We're both giving and taking. But I also think, from my perspective, after going through a relationship that wasn't good, that your relationship should make you feel good sometimes, and probably most of the time. It should make you feel good as a baseline alongside challenging you to grow. Because I will say, yeah, I think toxic is way overused, but I do want to just acknowledge the very real experiences of women and like people like me who have been in a relationship that actually did drain their life force and take a lot from them. Because being in that situation, yeah, that's the only way I can say it is it can drain your life force and you get out of it and you're like, whoa, like what the fuck? I remember my friends being like, your sunshine is back. Where Natalie's back. Where was she the last 3 years? So there is that too.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I just want to push back a tiny bit and just say, when it comes to being in a long-term relationship or looking at being in a relationship for a lifetime, when you're saying you should feel good most of the time, it's like there might be a year or years where you don't feel good. But if you stick it out, like when you go back, I'm speaking as a 30-year-old. I can't be speaking as a 90-year-old woman looking back on my life. But I do think that a lot of successful marriages, there's a lot of tough times. And I think
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. You should feel good. And probably you should feel good more than you feel bad. We don't want to be in a relationship where you feel like shit all the time.
Hmm.
Think that the longer you're with someone and the further you navigate life and all the things that come with life as we get older, all the challenges, there's going to be some tough seasons. And
Yeah,
marriage is honestly so crazy. Like
it is.
move through life with someone through decades and all the losses, like people dying, just losing jobs, the craziness that happens in the world, like having children, raising your children, all the crazy things that can happen with that, and all the joy. It's a lot to move through that with another person. It's not,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think there is validity to that. Someone whose perspective I really like on relationships, she's the only person that I'll try accept content from these days on relationships, is Shalina Ayana. Shalina Ayana. She's Rising Woman on Instagram. She's been in a long-term relationship. She's also been divorced. She also is a mom. And one of the things she says is passion comes and goes. You're not always going to have that like passionate love connection with your partner, but what sustains you is the friendship and the partnership. And I think that the problem happens when that goes away. The love or the romantic, passionate love, that's going to fade, wax and wane. There's definitely going to be seasons where you're less attracted to one another. And like you said, you were getting the ick and like all of that. But I think the problem happens when two people aren't being good partners to each other because being a partner requires I just think that's what's required. And if someone's feeling alone in their relationship, it's bad in the sense that they feel like they're doing it alone. I don't think that's good. Do you know what I mean? Friendship where you can hold space for someone while they're going through something, even if you don't really approve or get it, or yeah, that's my thought. And that's partly from my own lived experience of not having the partner I needed when I was going through something really challenging. But I know you also have a unique perspective on that of your partner going through something challenging and you navigating, how do I handle this for myself? So yeah,
yeah,
I'm curious what that feels like for you.
I think that there has to be like an incredible amount of grace on both sides because it's not every day that I can show up and be super kind and supportive and understanding. Some days I'm like, this is still going on. Come on. And I hear myself sometimes when I'm doing that, and I'm like, ah, I'm being an asshole. But I also trust that what's coming through me is what needs to be coming through me. But then on the other side of that, Shane extends me a lot of grace to have those moments of like understanding that this is frustrating for me. And also, I've been through things and he's done the same for me. My
Mm,
mom died when we were 6 months, 8 months into our relationship.
I
Like,
remember that, yeah.
of like how much he's held it down for me. And I think that there is a really deep friendship there. And I just think that the grace is so important. And it's never just one person extending the other person grace. It has to be like a constant flow of grace. Of we're not going to be our best at all times, every day and every moment. And also, as we've been together longer, I can sometimes quickly, or it takes me longer, but I'll just be like, sorry, that was rude, or sorry, I was being an asshole, or sorry, I was being a brat. Like, and
Mm.
I've learned a lot from Shane about extending compassion and grace because he has some fucking crazy superpower of endless grace and compassion and empathy. And that's what I love the most about him. And that's also why I think he struggles so much mentally and emotionally because it's just, yeah, I don't know, two sensitive people together is hard. And sometimes I'm like, you make it seem like I am like tough as nails. I'm like, I'm just a baby.
What I really love and what you said that I think is pretty novel, like I haven't really heard it talked about in that way before, is the grace extending on both sides. Both grace from the person who is supporting the one going through something, but also grace for the one going through something, knowing that the other person can't meet all of their needs all the time.
That's been a big learning for me too. And I know people talk about this all the time, but like finding myself frustrated that Shane doesn't show up for me in certain ways, and then just remembering, but one person can't be everything. Okay, let me go out and see what I can get from other friends. And especially being back in St. Pete now, that's been really nice to be around other friends and just reteaching myself of, if you come to him with this is how he's going to respond. If you don't want that, then don't come to him with that. Like, go to get what you're looking for.
Oh yeah, that's so good. I had this thought actually a couple weekends ago when I went camping with one of my closest girlfriends, one of my college best friends who somehow I live an hour from now, which is closer than we've lived since college, which is amazing. And we went camping a couple weeks ago and we spent the morning that we camped, and you're gonna love this because this is what you and I would probably do if we ever camped. We drank coffee and talked and read our books for 4.5 hours. And I was like, in my dreams, I want a partner to go camping with me and all of that. And I'm like, a man would never do that with me. This is a uniquely female experience that I am getting this life from this slow talking coffee morning from my friend.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
the perfect example of you can't get everything from one person.
Yeah. And at some point, you have to realize like, it's not the other person. It's like, it's me. I'm the one who keeps going to him. Do I just love driving myself crazy? Like, conscious of it and just being like, okay, this is what happens when you do this.
Yeah.
You get frustrated and feel insane. Call a girlfriend.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
I think there's also something beautiful about you were talking about some of the things you've learned from Shane. I think it's beautiful to also see relationships as not just this is someone who gives you love and you give them love, but these are people who you're learning important life lessons from. And I watched this Instagram reel the other day, and it was this counselor, psychologist woman speaking about soulmates. And that's a topic that I find really interesting is do we have soulmates? And I had heard someone else talk about this before too. Actually, a rabbi, a Jewish rabbi, was speaking on marriages. And he was talking about you can't marry someone who's not your soulmate. And so then someone was like, why then do people get divorced? And he was like, that's why divorce hurts so much, is because you're leaving one of your soulmates. You can have multiple soulmates. And this woman was speaking to the same thing. She was like, we can have many souls that our soul recognizes that are like soul mates in this lifetime. That doesn't always mean that those are people for us to be in a forever connection with. It could be that our souls are meant to come here and learn something from each other, but the earthly dynamic, it just doesn't work. And so I think whether your relationship stays forever or not, it's cool to think about that because when I think back to my marriage, wow, I am a totally different person from it in some really positive ways. I've spoken to some of the ways that I felt drained by the marriage because of the, like I said, earthly dynamic that was very real. But he taught me so much about being strong, like how to be strong, how to take really good care of myself. He gave me some amazing one-liners that I still use to this day. I remember speaking of going to people and always getting the same result, I would go and I'd be like distraught about an emotion. And he would just be like, you know what, Natalie, be sad. Just stop being sad about being sad. And I was like, that's amazing. You're right. And I use that one all the time. He was really good at, I just think, being mature with emotions. And I think at first that really triggered me. And sometimes that's what happens when we're relating to someone. The way they do something really triggers you. I was really triggered by the idea that anything other than fully expressing my emotions all the time was acceptable. But I think he taught me a lot about that containment. And even though that was a hard lesson to receive from a romantic partner, it was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the victim mindset and like this people being like, oh, poor Natalie, she got divorced. This happened to her. It's like that lens of this is happening to me versus for me. and
Mm.
what is this teaching me instead of what is this taking from me? It's like there's, and I think in all the hardships in life, there's so much. I feel like we've talked about this probably in every episode we've done together.
Mm.
Just there's so much medicine and things to milk from the challenging times. There's so
Yeah.
much learning and growth. And yeah, that's something that I say about my relationship with Shane too, is this is the playground where I learn and grow the most. I'm fucking
Mhm.
stretched to my limits. I'm pushed past my capacity over and over again. My patience. I get curious sometimes. I'm like, what is this preparing me for? Like, I'm gonna be ready.
Motherhood, maybe.
I get nervous when I think about that because I'm like, what am I for some straight wildings, like crazy ass kids?
I think regardless, motherhood stretches your capacity,
Yeah,
even if your kids aren't wildlings.
for
And
sure.
also, aren't all kids wildlings?
I know mine are gonna be.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. Are there any goals or intentions that you have when it comes to your relationship right now? Anything you're working towards?
I think this is a weird thing to be working towards in the relationship, but I touched on it earlier of actually just calling my energy back in and seeing the way that I've been focusing so much on Shane and what he's doing and what he isn't doing and our relationship and yeah, just getting so caught up in it that and also in ways that me in my attempt to care for him and support him is maybe like taking away from him of like
Mm.
to do those things himself.
Oh, wow.
And actually, I got that from I went to the beach with a friend a couple of weeks ago and she pointed that out to me. And I was surprised by my reaction of it because the way she delivered it was very sweet and genuine because I feel like that's something that someone would say that I would be like offended by or just like really closed off to that. But it was like so genuine and gentle that I was just like really had a lot of clarity of seeing that I am almost like which one is it in the yoga of non-stealing and
Uh,
like
yeah.
brahmacharya maybe.
I think Asteya, right? Brahmacharya is modesty. As
Whatever it is, non-stealing.
we know.
Because we're English speakers. But I kind of have just been like, even though my intentions are so pure and it's like loving and wanting to support, it's actually I am taking away his, I don't really have the words for it, but it's like him to be able to show up for himself and do what he needs to do to get himself through what he's going through. Like
Yeah.
do it for him.
Wow.
And it's been like we were actually talking about this last night, and I'm seeing so much of my childhood dynamics showing up now of growing up in a household where there was like some mental instability and a little bit of walking on eggshells, and me really stepping into the role of trying to be perfect so that someone else would be like happy. It always falling short. It doesn't actually matter what I do. There's no level of perfection I can achieve that's going to make this other person be happy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, talking about it now I said this last night and I'm like crying because that is such
Mm.
a core wound of mine is like,
Wow.
it's really, I think for years I've been like, you always hear, oh, you marry your father or your dad or whatever, your mom or your dad, whatever dynamic, it's usually one of your parents, like
Mhm.
same. And I was always like, I don't know. I feel like Shane's not really my mom or my dad. I couldn't figure it out. And recently I've just been like, damn, this is the house. I'm used to living in this.
Wow.
And I don't know, I don't think right now there's anything to do about it, but I guess if there is, it's just, yeah, coming back to myself and like, how can I just refocus on myself and like, even though we're together and we're in this relationship and I love him and support him so much, sometimes helping hurts. needs? And how can I just help myself and focus on myself? And I also think that when we do that, like you are setting the tone for the energy of the house and the relationship of just like, all right,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at now is like within my relationship, I'm actually like taking a step back a little bit.
I love to hear that because it goes with what we've been talking about is like being unconventional with how you're doing things and letting it be what's true for you. That was actually my intention today. I always set an intention today, and I'm on a microdosing protocol right now. The last time I did it actually was right after my divorce, and I just started it again 2 weeks ago, which is funny because I'm like going through a breakup now and didn't plan to for it to be that way. But yeah, wild coincidence, synchronicity. But when I take the microdose every morning, like I set a little intention of like whatever is coming through. And today I was just like, yeah, can I be in my true north and have the courage to move in that direction, even if it doesn't like make sense? And I just did air quotes for anyone who's just listening to audio. So I love that you are doing that. You are doing what is true for your relationship in this season, even if it's not conventional. And I think sometimes, yeah, like there is a time to tune out the external noise when it comes to relationships. Sometimes we really actually need that.
I think that's true about a lot in life. If you're trying to do something that's not just, I'm sorry to the 9 to 5ers, but that's not just like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. If you're trying to do something different, there's a lot you have to tune out.
Yeah.
I've had my moments where I'm like, why can't I just be a normal 9 to 5er? Like they look so happy.
Speaking of, yeah, Sydney and I are both, I should have said this at the beginning of the recording. We usually talk about what cycle day we're on, but Sydney and I are both on day 26. So
Yep.
we are luteal queens over here. And yesterday I had my monthly luteal breakdown of wanting to quit everything and get a 9 to 5.
I haven't had that yet. I've actually been feeling like yesterday I got this burst of energy and I'm like, I almost feel like ovulation energy. It's weird.
Interesting. It's a full moon. That could be part of it.
Yeah, but I will say I did apply for a job recently and got excited for it and I literally even did CPR training for it. And
Whoa.
it just was like the woman messaged me and said the position has been paused. We'll reach back out if it restarts again. And I was like,
Oh,
the position is paused. I'm like, what does this mean?
very vague response.
Why can't you let me just get a job, universe? I'm just normal.
The universe is like, nope, you are an entrepreneur. We need another episode on being an entrepreneur and the personal growth that comes from that. Oh, wow.
Fun though. It's fun. The other way was just so boring and made me want to just bang my head on the wall. I just can't live life like that.
It's fair. Another beautiful thing that I'm grateful for from my ex-husband is he's the one who convinced me to quit my 9 to 5. So I don't know
Yeah.
if you knew that.
No, I didn't. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was like in the first year of us dating, and we were li like just starting to live together. And I remember the exact moment. He was so sweet. He brought me a snack plate while I was working, because I was working from home that day. He brought me a snack plate. And I think I just was snappy with him or something. I don't know. I think I appreciated it. I was very appreciative of him. But I don't know, whatever it was, like I wasn't very warm. And later in the day, he asked me a very interesting question that no one had ever asked me before. And he was like, I had to ask you something. And he was like, do you hate your job? And I was like, I think I do. Oh my God. And he was like, yeah, you shouldn't do that then. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I think I was also teaching yoga on the side at the time. So I had a little bit of a side gig already. And he was like, well, you'll figure it out. And I'm happy to support you until you do. And that was a beautiful gift.
Love that. That's a very sweet story.
Sweet story. Yeah. I think it's
You now,
important. Huh?
because look at you now. It's been so cool to watch your evolution, especially in your business, watching you build your business brick by brick.
Yeah, he helped me a lot. When I was teaching yoga online, he got me my first ring light. The microphone that I use for this podcast, he got for me. He helped me pay for all of my training. I think it's important to remember these things because people don't always show. I don't know. I have a lot of gratitude for him and for honestly most of the people that I've been with in relationship because just because they couldn't show up or we couldn't come together in the way that we both needed doesn't mean that those people don't change your life, transform your life for the better. I have so much gratitude to that relationship.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I know we both really catapulted each other. I remember he told me that when we first met, it was before we started dating, it was when we first met, I was going to Bali and I had just, I think I was like still working. Yeah, I was obviously still working my corporate job. And I was like, oh, I'm going to Bali for 2 weeks. And he told me later on that when I said that, he was like, that's crazy. You can't just go to Bali for 2 weeks. And then later on, he ended up traveling full time. So it's cool how we can really catapult each other into different levels of success. Another thing that I think is really interesting about being in a relationship with someone that is a learning I've had from that marriage and actually from dating, which we haven't even touched on, but dating is a whole other crazy self-development realm, is learning to not need people to be, how do I say this? It's because it's different than what we've talked about. Accepting people for who they are and not needing them to be perfect. I think there was someone that I was dating until recently, and there was a few things at the beginning that I was like, oh, this could never work. He doesn't value this in the same way as me, or he had a different perspective on that, and it triggered me. And I remember one of my local friends here being like, if he bothers you a little bit, if he annoys you a little bit, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, what you said, what did you say? Accepting people the way they are and not needing them to be perfect.
Yeah,
Dude, that's like the name of the game.
I know.
Relationships
And
is like,
I've had to really learn that. That was like maybe the biggest thing I took away from my marriage ending is I really expected perfection from him and he expected it from me. And we just couldn't. Yeah.
so with Shane and I, it's probably more me. So me expecting perfection from him, but he does not, he's just accepts me the way I am. And
Sweet.
that's how it is with everyone. Everyone is just perfect the way they are. And which is also an interesting dynamic of being him being very much accepting and me being someone who is growth oriented. I want to get better. I want to always be getting better.
Mhm.
And I think that at times it can be a really beautiful balance. And at times I'm like, bro, you're holding me back. But then I'm like, is he though? Am I just using him as an excuse? There's so many. When you said something about questions way at the beginning, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have an endless thing of questions with relationships going in my head
Yeah.
all the time.
And I think some of them we don't ever really know. It's all just practice, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I wish people would be more honest about is the questioning because sometimes I'm like, I hate the sentiment of, oh, when
I get so annoyed by that too.
I literally was at a thing the other night and it was everyone was giving their little relationship advice. And then I said mine. I said this whole thing about hating that. And then 2 minutes later, someone was like, they were both like, when I was like, I think that that's a personality thing. Some people are when you know people, and some people are just questioning till their last breath.
I just, yeah, I don't know. I think some people, I tend to be more in your camp. I even just think this person that I was dating recently, it took me a while and it took him a while to be like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And I remember a lot of people being, I remember actually one of my male friends here was like, if he doesn't know within the first 2 weeks of dating you if you're his wife, then it's not it. And I remember being like, what? Because yeah, I think it's not one size fits all. And I said this to you, I think before recording that because I've been married and it didn't work out, I just have a different lens on relationships than other people. And I don't believe that when I believe there's attraction, there's what is that term, limerence, where you feel like you're in love with someone right away, but it's just like a chemistry thing. And personally, I am someone who takes my time and does like really question things. That's more in the realm of dating versus long-term relationship. But I think in long-term relationship too. And yeah, I don't know. I just like when I'm, yeah. I think something that has been hard for me is I've actually realized that I don't really want relationship advice from any of my friends. I've thought it before, and then yesterday I had my walk talk with the girls, and I kind of started talking about relationships, and I realized everything they said to me, I was like, I don't really want that right now. And it's not
Yeah.
anything about them. It's just and maybe this is, what word am I thinking of? Not conceited, but whatever. If this is me being whatever. But I just feel like I have a different perspective and I know better for myself because I've had a different experience. Because I
Yeah.
hear people talking to me about marriage and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, I did that. And yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I feel that. The thing I was talking about the other day was it was Becca's bachelorette little thing, and it was older women were there and they were giving their relationship advice. And then when
Oh.
Becca came over for the weekend, we were talking about it and we were like, all that advice fucking sucked. We kept being like, what do you think about this person's advice? And we are like, I hate it. We're like, we know we're like younger and they've been married for so many years and blah, blah, blah. But it's just some stuff is another one that I hate is saying that people never change because it's just, that's just not true.
True. You and I already have touched on that. People change. People change, baby.
And in one breath, they're saying people never change. And then in another breath, they're saying something that completely negates that. And I'm like, wait,
Well,
so
they're
you
just tropes that people like to play into.
yeah, but the thing about saying if he doesn't know you're his wife within 2 weeks, you're not. It's that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Also, to say that people never change, that's just not true.
What are some other things that you really don't like that people say about relationships? Okay, I'll give you one. One of mine that I really don't like is, oh my God, I just lost it. I had one that was like, this bothers me. Oh, this is one around dating that I get so annoyed with that I wouldn't have gotten until I'm like in a phase of being like, okay, again, a little older. I know I'm not that old, but I'm not in my early 20s dating. Is people being like, stop looking, and that's when you're gonna find your person. And just stop. That's when you're gonna be like most magnetic. And I'm just like, dude, fuck that. I want a family. I am actively looking.
Yeah.
So annoying to me.
I'm gonna find you if you're just in your office working by yourself all the time.
People are like, stop dating. That's how you find the person.
I've actually heard of there's some of I have a few friends who met people through Hinge or even Tinder and are like married or getting married or just I love their relationships. And so I feel
Same,
like
yeah.
even though that's like a weird modern day thing, it's also just such a good way, I think, when you know what you're looking for to present yourself and just be like, if you don't vibe with this, don't even come over here.
Yeah, that's such a funny way to describe dating app.
Like whatever way
You're
you're
like, I don't want that. I've
yeah.
actually, it's been interesting. I've done it all the ways. I've met people at coffee shops. I've gone on the dating apps. I've been introduced with friends. I've dated quite a bit. And I don't really think any of them is better than the other. The person I dated the longest, I met on a dating app. But the thing I've learned actually with dating apps is different from what you're saying. It's like my work in general, like I said, is being more open-minded to people and not requiring perfection. And so actually my work on dating apps has been like not having an immediate like, nope, not him, but really giving people a chance. And that's like actually what happened with the guy that I dated for longest. I wasn't immediately, wow, whatever, but it was like a slow burn. Once I got to, the more I got to know him, the more I, yeah, liked him a lot. And I think that's a really interesting way to go about it because I think the tendency is to just, yeah, like swipe and be super critical.
Yeah. You know what's funny, and I don't know what's wrong with me, but the three boyfriends I've had, including Shane, I really didn't like them. guys I dated in high school, I hated them before I started dating them. And then with Shane, I really didn't like him. I don't know how the heck we ever hung out a second time or how we started dating. It's actually crazy.
Oh my God, that's so
I
funny.
thought it a lot because he was really wild. We were both wild, but he was really wild when we first got together. And I'm just like, we have little memories, and I'm just like, why did I keep hanging out with you? Like,
Yeah, there is something to that. It's like, and maybe that is the like when you know.
like, like it's almost the opposite of attraction. It's like I'm really repulsed at first.
Oh my God. That's funny.
I don't know. I can't on the top think of anything else. I think those are my biggest ones. It's like, you know, and people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what is good advice though is similar lines to what you were saying is that like not trying to change someone.
Yeah.
My brother and I, he's been in a relationship, I think maybe 9 years. Not really, because they've broken up several times and actually broken up a couple of years apart. But we talk a lot about like our like this weirdness since sensation or wanting to change our partners. And we are able to talk to each other about that a lot. But also I think as we've gotten older and grown, that's not that that's not right. That's not the right way to put it, but it's just that's not something to put that's a sign that to redirect your energy towards yourself. That's something I've learned a lot too, is like
Mm,
a lot of times when I am being like the way that I'm showing up in my relationship with Shane or really with anyone is such a reflection of how I'm showing up with myself. Like when I start to get really critical and just noticing and pointing out, nitpicking every little thing that he's doing wrong, I'm like, dang, if I'm being this mean to you, imagine how mean
mm,
I felt, you know? And that sometimes I
so
can't even
true.
catch it until I'm like doing it to someone else.
Yeah.
But it's
Oh,
this,
it's so real. Yeah, I really relate to that. I actually think about that a lot. I think about that a lot with, yeah, my marriage. I was like that. Like all these things that I wanted him to do and be were like really reflections of what I wanted for myself.
yeah,
And being able to catch that, it's whoa. And I think plant medicine really helped me with that. I did a lot of, that was like a big part of me coming to terms with what needed to happen with my relationship and what needed to change, both in like how to make it work and ultimately like how to leave and that I should leave, which was a mutual decision, both of us, by the way. It wasn't like I was like, peace out, I'm done. It was like we both came to that together, which felt important. There's two people involved. But yeah, the plant medicine is what really helped me to turn everything on myself. Oh, I think he's doing this. Where am I doing that? He's not enough this. Where am I not accepting that in myself? I think that's a huge practice that we learn in relationships is that it's so cliche, but it's a mirror. It really is a mirror.
I feel like that's one of those tools that can easily be turned into a weapon. And sometimes you really can be in a relationship with someone that's just shitty, and then you try to
That's
just
fair.
be like, it's me. Also, it could be both. Sometimes it is that
Yeah.
and you. It's
Yeah.
interesting to just be discerning with that. But yeah, sometimes it's like, oh, I hate it. Like when I say something and then I'm like, turn it on myself and I'm like, damn it. Like this.
I just did that the other day, like thinking about this person who I just ended or who, yeah, who we just ended our thing. I had this thought and I was like, oh, he would probably judge me so much for this. And then I paused myself and I was like, no, that means I'm judging myself for that. That's not, if I think someone else would judge me for it, it's because I'm judging myself for it. Otherwise, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? It wouldn't matter.
This reminded me of the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other and you're like,
Yeah.
no matter where
Good
you
imagery.
do that, it's you.
But yeah, I think important point to note that it's not always that. And I think that goes back to us just, yeah, speaking to everyone's journey is so personal and there are like really no blanket statements in relationships at all.
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate message that we have.
Yeah, and don't be so hard on yourself. I'm really a big believer you can't go wrong. There is no wrong choice. Like you're always doing the right thing. So it's even if you to label, oh, you spent way too long in that relationship or it's like, no, you didn't. You were there until you needed to be there and you
Yeah.
and Even I feel that about your divorce. It's perfect. That was
Yeah.
what was meant to happen. You learned what you were supposed to learn, and that's preparing you for what's to come. And
Yeah.
no matter what happens in life, like that's what's supposed to happen.
So true. And I think that's really comforting too.
Yeah.
Really comforting thought when you're going through it that it's not wrong. That's actually something I used to write in my journal all the time when I was going through it with the divorce process, is I was like, none of it's wrong. None of it was ever wrong. The relationship wasn't wrong. The marriage wasn't wrong. The leaving wasn't wrong. And
Mhm.
that was like the only thing that would bring me peace. Because you guys, I'm talking about this in a very enlightened way now. But those days, I was living on a trailer on an acquaintance's property in North Carolina with my two dogs, working part-time in a coffee shop to try to make ends meet. And I would wake up every morning and just play my drum and sob by the creek for hours. So that's where we're coming from.
Yeah. There's a song, do you know Gone Gone Beyond?
Yes, I love that band.
You can't go wrong. Because I can get sometimes when the control freak in me turns up and I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't right. It's not supposed to be like this. That was a lot for this winter, turning 30. I wanted to go to New Mexico for my 30th birthday. And I was at my dad's house on an air mattress.
I had a moment like that on my 29th birthday. I thought I was going to be going to, or no, 28th. And whenever it was the year I got divorced, must have been 28th then, or 20, yeah. I wanted to be like going to hot springs in Idaho with my ex-husband, and instead I was in my parents' guest room.
Yeah. It's just, this isn't supposed to be like this. And
Yeah.
like
Oh,
now look like I'm too close to it now to be like, oh, that's why. I'm
yeah.
too close still, but I also find not asking, I try to be very cognizant of not asking why or how when I'm going through a really difficult time. Like why
Yeah.
this is happening and how am I going to get through it?
Yeah.
They're just that really gets me really frustrated and hopeless.
Yeah.
Giving those questions over to God and just being like, coming back to trust and being like, I trust life. Even when I don't really feel like I do, I'm just like, I trust it. I trust that this is the way it's supposed to be.
That's the message that I come back to over and over again that everyone always gives me. From the time that I was like 20 years old living in Spain, and the elder woman whose house I used to volunteer at said, "No preguntas a Dios por qué." Don't ask God why. She would always say that. And then my one of my closest friends when I was going through my divorce said to me all the time, "Can you just trust the divine path of your life? Can you just trust it?" I come back to that all the time. It's so big.
It's so hard sometimes,
Yeah, it is. It's hard.
but it's good. It's good.
Should we wrap up? Do you have any parting thoughts?
No, I have to pee though.
I do also have to pee.
Should we pee and wrap up or should we just wrap up?
I don't know. What else do you have to say?
I do want to just shout out my website and give a little discount code for people listening.
Oh, cute. Okay, let's pee and then come back and close up. I'll pause it. Okay. Any last thoughts? I feel like you and I, we just could keep. This is the nature of our podcast episodes. They just
Yeah.
go. They just go.
But I feel like we did a really good job. I think we covered everything. And I love this conversation. I'm excited to listen back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was just peeing just now, I was like, I actually love that we had that little moment of not disagreement, but like I said something and then you said something and then I said something and then you said,
Yeah.
yeah. And neither of us was like trying to convince the other person. We were just like, yeah, this both exists. I think that's just like, yeah, the last thing I would really like want to hit home is like, it's so personal and it's like really only you know.
I think that's what we kept coming back to.
Yeah.
And it's even in our little, not disagreement, like you said, but like going back and forth. I think that it could, it's interesting because you and I almost are like two sides of the same coin, or I don't know if that makes sense to say it that way, but like we're both presented with a similar situation but chose differently. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I chose to end a long-term relationship and you chose to stay.
Mhm.
And I think either of us could have made a different decision, but we chose what was right for our unique circumstances. And that just goes back to like it is so personal.
Yeah. I find it interesting too, being in my predicament of I'm not married, and also I'm in this 8 year long relationship. Like when you say two sides of the same coin, it's interesting too, because it's like you had the marriage, and then I have this like longer relationship. So it's just always an interesting dynamic. I find myself the past few years being in this weird liminal space, like not being married. Because I was really not interested in marriage for the
Mm,
first 5 years of mine and Shane's relationship.
yeah.
And then I was interested, and then I was like, as soon as I told Shane that I wanted to marry him, and I was like yelling at him when I told him, and
I remember you telling me about that.
even him being like, it's not adding up what you're how you're saying it.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
And me after that being like, wait, I told him I wanted to be married. Why aren't we married 5 seconds ago? And then it's been such a ride. It's been such a trip, but definitely in this weird liminal space of not married yet in this long relationship that feels like marriage, and almost like how much longer could we go unmarried, because it does bring up things of is this a marriage or not, because it's a different level of commitment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think people don't realize it, but it does change things.
That's what all my friends that are married say. They're like, I thought it wouldn't change that much, but it really does. But also, I don't know anyone that was like together so long, not
Mm.
got married. So I don't know. It goes back to just whatever you're doing. That's what you're doing.
Oh, thanks for doing this with me. I love our relationship.
Me too. I'm so grateful for it, especially to be able to have conversations like this. And
I know.
you were like really one of my very few rocks during the when I was really in the thick of it in the winter.
Aw.
So thank you for that. I'm so grateful for you really held it down for me. I feel like like I just remember being at my dad's house and going on walks and either being on the phone with you or sending voice memos.
Hmm.
It's so sweet to have your support and you being like, just come out here.
I know. I was like, you should just come stay with me for a while.
I was like, I don't think I'll ever come back if I do that.
Truly, it was an honor. I'm grateful you trusted me with that time in your life. And I love talking to you. I guess one thing I'll say that I think is important to end the conversation too, because we've mostly been talking about romantic relationships, but when it comes to friendships too, I think it's really good to remember that people want to show up for you when you're in the hard times. It feels really cringy. I remember that when I was going through the thick of it with my divorce. I remember calling some of my college girlfriends, like when I was literally a snotty, sobby wreck, and feeling like I can't call someone in this state, but then realizing how good it felt to do that. And I think, yeah, we all deserve that. I don't ever need anyone to be any certain way to enjoy talking to them, and I would hope my friends feel the same way about me. I think that's a special thing about friendship.
Yeah, I think that one of the best tried and true wisdom or I don't know if it's even relationship advice that goes around though is for women just the sentiment around your friends are forever, and not to say men come and go and sisters are forever, but there is some nugget of truth in that of your women friends hold it down in a way that a man could never. And
So
it's something to really cherish and to yeah, I also really cherish the friends of maybe you don't give so much energy to it because you're consumed in your relationship, but they're like still there
yeah,
when you come back. I don't know, there's just nothing better than a good friend, a good sister.
agreed.
Such a special relationship.
Yee, grateful for you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for always being willing to come on and talk to me. And I'm sure we'll do it again in probably about a year.
So fun. Well, I'll have to have you on mine. I was excited to come on too because I'm like, I know this is really going to energize me to get season 3 going for mine.
Yes, we should do something. Okay, I know you want to give a little shop update and maybe a little discount code, so I'd love to let you do that.
Yeah, I have an herbal medicine shop online. It's called Sacred Reclamation. So you can go to sacredreclamation.com and make everything myself. Right now in the shop, we have some good stuff for your people, Natalie, since you're in the hormone healing space. Reishi, milk thistle, mugwort. Yeah, and then I also have a few others, and I also have a really beautiful body butter that just came out this spring.
Oh my gosh, I know. I cannot wait to try that. I've been meaning to order it. That and your reishi. Sydney makes great reishi.
Yeah, the reishi is my pride and joy of my shop. I love it.
Yeah.
Freaking, I need to make Shane a gallon of it because he's, I have to protect my stuff for the shop and be like, no.
Oh, so funny. Yeah, reishi milk thistle is a great one too. I recommend milk thistle to clients all the time for PMS symptoms. So I'm glad you're starting to make that one.
Yeah, I started taking it last year and then I was like, I gotta make this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I make everything myself with a lot of love and intention and just I sing to my herbs while they're infusing. I dance in the kitchen. I try to have a lot of fun and also being present with what's real and tuning into what's going on to the collective and infusing intentions and praying over the medicine. So that's really special to me. And I want to give everyone listening a code. You can use Moonbaby 15. Let's do 15. You're 15% off. So you guys can all check out the website, sacredreclamation.com. I also have a podcast, The Sacred.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you can find me under Sacred Reclamation wherever.
Cool. Yeah, Sydney's podcast is amazing. A lot of really beautiful people. If you like the stories on my podcast, you're gonna like the stories on hers too, because they're just people's inspiring life stories.
Yeah, I'm listening to the ones Natalie's on. She's been on a couple times.
We love being on each other's podcasts.
The excuse to just get together and chat for a couple hours.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I love you. Thanks for being here today. I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah, I love you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the wisdom of the womb today. It's truly such an honor to bring these stories and teachings forward to you, and it would mean so much to me if you'd rate and review this podcast so that it can reach more women. If you're looking for deeper support, you can always find the link to join our online community, the Cyclical Living Circle with the best women in the world, in the show notes, and you'll also find the links to book one-on-one virtual sessions for your specific needs, as well as any workshops or courses I'm currently offering. Plus, you can follow me on Instagram, and I love to connect with you all there. All right, see you next week.